Right now, introducing next on my radio show and podcasts, taking time out of his schedule, I have an Australian recording artist, Brendan Radford, joining me now on my channel. Glad to have you on today's program.
G'day, Dan. Great to be here. Thanks for
Nice to
asking me
meet you.
along.
And please, can you just tell me and my listeners just a little bit about yourself? Where you're currently based, maybe in Australia, your musical background, picking up your first
For
musical
sure.
instrument, and so on.
For sure. Yeah, I'm based in Brisbane in Australia, so in Queensland, yeah, on the east coast. I travel all around Australia, playing with a number of our acts, but most recently I've released some of my own music. And that's the reason we're chatting today. So yeah, I play guitar and harmonica, sing, play some mandolin, play a bunch of different things. And I've toured quite extensively in Australia, at least, and been to Nashville a couple of times with various people. But yeah, I'm having a go myself at the moment. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
good. And who have been some of the artists you've admired, over the years, particularly starting out as well?
that I've admired.
Yeah, or
Oh,
looked up
look,
to.
yeah, look, probably my influences. I mean, I guess as a kid, I played in top 40 covers bands and that sort of thing, when I was younger. So, just thinking back, some of my favorite artists, I guess, started with Status Quo. I had their entire record collection. Um, but I've gone through, love guitar players, love bluegrass players like Dan Crary and Tony Rice and that kind of thing. Loved Larry Carlton, or like, Steely Dan, right through to, I love James Taylor, one of my favorite songwriters, and another of my favorite songwriters would be Rodney Crowell, who's a Nashville-based writer. Yeah,
Nice. Were you
yeah.
ever into Johnny Cash at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up with Johnny Cash and Buck Owens and all of that kind of stuff. That was in my dad's and my uncle's record collection, along with a lot of our Australian acts. Slim Dusty and Tex Morton and Gordon Parsons, those sorts of acts. Yeah, for sure.
And what's your thoughts on the country music scene making a big comeback?
Oh, look, I think it goes through cycles, really, but it's certainly very strong at the moment. There's a lot of stuff coming out of America and Australia, as well as other parts of the world, that's very strong. But I'm kind of probably more in the singer-songwriter kind of category these days.
That's
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And one of the reasons, as you mentioned, I invited you on my show is because you have a brand new track or a recent track called They Don't Flick the Finger in the Outback Anymore. And that's perhaps one of the
That's
greatest titles for a song I've heard in a while. Where did the inspiration from writing this song come about?
Well, look, it's obviously from Australia, and I'm not sure. Do people in the UK sort of, as they go past, particularly if they're on some of those more regional sort of rural and remote areas, do they sort of, flick the finger to say "G'day, how you going" as they're driving past? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that interesting. I don't think so, because here in
Yeah,
the UK, everybody's so busy and keeps themselves to themselves. We've got country
yeah,
lanes, so maybe in rural, they they
yeah.
uh, they're quite humble to each other.
It's just that recognition of, someone. But this was my wife and I were on a trip up to the Gulf, up towards Kakadu, because Brisbane to Kakadu is probably it's at least a couple of thousand kilometres. So we were heading up towards the Gulf of Carpentaria, and as we got, we were 3 or 4 hours outside of Brisbane. We was getting it. We were well into the country, but probably not quite where you'd call the outback as such. And I remember driving around with my dad as a kid, because he came from outback Australia. And as you drive past someone and they drive towards you, you wouldn't see that many cars on the road. So when someone drove towards you, you'd just, and I did that to the fellow coming towards me, and I didn't get anything back. And I turned to my wife and said, "Oh, they don't flick the finger in the outback anymore." And she rolled her eyes at me, of course, as she does. And I said, that's not a bad title for a song. So over the next few weeks, as we travelled up through Kakadu and up around Corumba and all across the top of Australia, the song kind of wrote itself, actually, just from the experiences that we had. So yeah, that's where it came from.
And would you say it has a bit of a light-hearted theme to it?
Oh, it's very, very light-hearted. Yeah,
Mm,
it's
mm.
not meant to take the mickey out of anyone. Because in actual fact, I jokingly say to people, it has a happy ending. Because as we got further out and we got up around Lawn Hill and up past Mount Isa, and that people did start to raise the pointer up and say, "Yeah, g'day," you know. So yeah, I just a bit of fun, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a great track, and it's got some uh, quite recognised musicians in this country, at least, on it. A fella called Rod McCormack on the banjo, James Gillard on upright bass, Kimmy Warner, who now lives in Austin in Texas, he's on the mandolin, and Michelle Rose, who's probably as good a steel player as anyone in the world, lives on here on the Gold Coast now, but he's there on dobro. So yeah, it's a great track. And my
And
son's got to sing along on the backing vocals, which was great for me. A couple of my boys sung along with me. Yeah.
and did the records take a while to put together, getting everyone like in the recording studio by the start when you first start writing the song, put the pen on paper to the final product, did it take a while or was it quite a fast process?
Well, when I started recording, it was a pretty fast process. But it probably took a couple of years from when I first wrote the tune to get to the point where I actually recorded it. But I jumped on a plane, went down to Sydney and to the Central Coast, and we band tracked it. So there's myself on guitar, Rod on banjo, and James on upright bass. That was the band track for it. Then I came home and I got my mate Luke Moller on fiddle, who's also actually lived in Nashville for a number of years. He's come home recently, and all the other guys to come into my studio here in Brisbane, and we did all those overdubs. And I sent a copy to Kim, who's living in Austin in Texas, and he put some mandolin on it for me, and then I brought it all back, and I got it all mixed up and mastered, and there it is, you know. But it's a little bit of a process, yeah, yeah.
And it's on streaming platforms now. How's it been received?
Yeah, it's been received really well. Yeah, so it's on all of the normal streaming
Mm,
platforms, and it's going really well. Yes, people seem to like the novelty of it. You know.
mm.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the streaming platforms for the cover art. It's very animated.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, I'll confess we had a AI involved in that, but that started as a photo that my son took of an old Land Cruiser dashboard. Because I just, visually getting someone, the way the cover looks with a car coming towards you through the windscreen and raising the finger to say g'day, pretty hard to get that sort of photo.
Mm.
But yeah, so we got the actual photo was one that was my son's. And then we introduced a little bit of AI around the story I wanted it to tell, and then I turned it into an animation. So that's kind of the story behind the artwork. Yeah.
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 And will this single, They Don't Flick the Finger in the Outback, be an introductory number or lead on to another single this year?
Yeah, well, it's actually my third single. The first one that I released was in out of off this body of work was in October last year, and that was called EJ. It was a tune about my granddad, who was a ganger on the railway here in Queensland. And the second one was a tune called "Start All Over Again," which is kind of about, I've got a big family and gone through the years of
Mm.
working two or three jobs at a time to sort of make ends meet. So the weekends being precious, that sort of thing. "Start All Over Again" is that tune, and that'll be the title track for the album, which is due out in about 6 weeks' time. So there'll be a whole bunch more music coming your way. Yep.
Exciting. And would you say you're quite a storyteller, in your songwriting?
Look, I do tend to tell stories about people or about things that have happened. It's hard to say. Ideas just come to me as a writer, and some of them turn into really quite great songs, I think, and some of them, they kind of sit on the shelf and they don't
Mm.
quite get finished. It's just a way of being creative, I think. Yeah.
And do you ever get a chance to perform like music venues?
Do perform quite a bit, yeah. So and I perform myself, and I also still work with a bunch of other people. So I was in Adelaide on the weekend on Friday with a fella called John Williamson, who's quite an icon in our country. I was performing with Tanya Kernigan up in Bundaberg in Queensland. Then the next night, so flights between Adelaide and Bundaberg. That's what's that? That's it's at least 3,000 kilometers, I think. So yeah, it's quite a distance. And but I've got some things coming up. I've got the Deniliquin Ute Muster, which is in New South Wales here in Australia. I've got Clarence Valley Country Festival, which is in October, and a bunch of other things through the rest of the year, and then the Tamworth Country Music Festival next January.
Mm.
Yeah, I've got some performances there. So
Wow, that scene comes round so quickly.
yeah, absolutely.
Because yeah, I've interviewed artists who perform on that festival, and then before you know it, the next year comes round when I do
It
the
certainly does.
interview.
Yeah, yeah, it tears around. Yeah, and I look after so the premier event in the Australian Country Music Festival in Tamworth is the Golden Guitar Awards each year, and I'm the musical director for the band that looks after. So I look after all of the artists that go into that as well, and look after all the music and that sort of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, it comes around pretty quickly. Yeah.
And working with like-minded musicians, selling a new record, what do you like about that aspect? Jamming, whether it's in the recording studio or on stage.
What? Sorry.
What do you like about working with like fellow musicians? Whether it's on stage or recording in the
Oh,
studio.
yeah. Look, I love the camaraderie between musicians. I love that. The sum of all the parts is more than all the parts, if that makes sense. Everyone brings what they bring, and you might go into the studio with an idea, and what you come out with is, well, potentially something like what you went in and thinking you'd get, but often what you come out with is much, much better than what you could have envisaged
Mm,
yourself. So I love that part of it, that creative part that, where everyone contributes and then you come out with something that's just never been done before and it's brand new and it's amazing. I love that.
mm. Two questions in one here, but who would you most like to collaborate with, and or if you could open up a show for any artist, who would it be?
Oh, who would I like to most collaborate with? Um, there's a songwriter I mentioned earlier, a fellow in Nashville by the name of Rodney Crowell. I'd love to collaborate with Rodney because he's incredible songwriter. I've been a big fan of Rodney's for many, many years. So it'd be great to collaborate with Rodney, but be a bit scary to open the show for him. But yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And you mentioned your new record has had good feedback. What's it like getting positive reviews, from magazines and publications, or just hearing your song on local radio?
Oh, I love to hear my music. I'll put my hand up and say, if I hear it on the radio, I'm quite chuffed to do that. I mean, I guess it's nice to get that recognition. It really is. But at the end of the day, I kind of don't think I do it for that, really. I think I do it just because it's just what I do.
Mm.
They're ideas. I just have to have that creative outlet. And if people connect with it, that's actually really gratifying. I really love it. Yeah.
And anything further you may just like to add to the interview, whether it's to your friends and followers or family, or if you just want to mention a website, feel free.
Oh, great. Yeah, look, you can just search my name on Google. It will come up with my website. My website's actually under Rad Music, but if you search Brendan Radford, it should come up. And if you want to, there's a bunch of merch on there that you can buy. There's keep cups and stubby coolers and t-shirts and things like that. But yeah, go on there and have a look around. It's also got the gig guide, so if you're kind of local, that's the place to find out where I'll be playing. And if you like the song, please share, whack it on your playlists. I'd love you to do that because all of that sort of stuff helps. And gee, I look forward to seeing your listeners around somewhere at a
Mm.
gig that I play at. Yeah.
Well, Brendan Radford, thanks for joining me on my show. Just want to personally thank you for taking time out and wish you the very best with your continual musical endeavors.
Thank you so much, Dan, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much. That was Brendan Radford on today's show. Lovely chatting with you.